And hello again, dear ones. Rev Robert here behind the banner.
And Rev Z right here.
And this is New Thought Today here on the New Thought Media Network. Happens every Tuesday afternoon. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate you being here. If you're new to the program, welcome. And we'll tell you a little bit more about what we do and how we do it as we go along. If you're not new, if you're here and you've been here before, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Let your friends know what we're doing here on New Thought Media Network. So Z and I, we get together every Tuesday afternoon, and sometimes we have some guests, and we have some, not this week, but normally often we have a guest. But what we always have are some pretty amazing and interesting conversations around the future of New Thought and where New Thought's headed as a philosophy, as a movement, as organizations, and all that kind of stuff. And, well, seeing as how it is the month of November, and both Z and I will be away next week, so we won't be with you live. We'll be doing a best of program. We thought it only appropriate to do our Thanksgiving program today. And we've got, we want to explore this concept of Thanksgiving as a holiday itself and its history, and then some ideas on where we take it from there. So Z has been our resident historian this morning, doing our historical type of research. I'm going to kick it over to him and let Z kick us off a little bit here today.
Oh, thanks, Robert, and early happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I mean, it's a beloved holiday that centers on the whole idea of gratitude, which we are keyed into in New Thought, because we understand that gratitude and appreciation is really the fountain of everything: success, joyful living, prosperity, everything, because it allows us to acknowledge the presence of the divine in everything. And so kind of gave us this impetus to look at the holiday that started in 1620, 1621, when the Pilgrims at Plymouth Rock met the Wampanoag, a Native American tribe, and they were working together. But the holiday as we know it didn't come about, and this I found very interesting, didn't actually get established on our calendars until 1863 by Abraham Lincoln. And oddly enough, it was placed on the calendars to be a rallying point for everybody to come together after slavery, after the Civil War had ended. And so in 1863, he established Thanksgiving to be the last Friday. The last Thursday, rather, of November. And then in around 1941, Franklin Delano Roosevelt came in and changed it to the fourth Thursday, because occasionally there are 5 Thursdays in November, and he wanted a regular thing. And so that's how we get to where we are today. And then when we look at some of the images, the thing that we found interesting, that looking at some of the images of what the exchange was between the indigenous tribes and the Pilgrims, and some of the way we have, for lack of a better word, appropriated certain things and attributed certain things to the Pilgrims and not the indigenous tribes, has created a new awareness in looking at the holiday, not the gratitude part, but the holiday, the way it stands, and the historical truth or the historical facts about what really set it up.
Right, how we portrayed it. Once again, folks, yep, the white man sort of appropriated the culture of people of color and decided to do whatever we wanted to do with it. However, we can try to make amends in that regard. And careful, I might say the reparations word today. But and and part of that, and I do see a little of that getting started. More and more, I recognize communities and events that share a blessing or an honoring for the land of the Native Americans upon which the event might happen. And as we sit here in Colorado, Elzia, you and I, we've got a unique place because Denver has always been a crossroads, and the Denver region is actually a crossroads of the Eastern Shoshone, the Arapaho, the Cheyenne, the Ute tribes, all crisscrossed and interweaved and interconnected here in the Denver area. So this has always been a crossroads of various cultures coming together to understand themselves, to I would assume to work together based on the number of different tribes who are present here. So it's nice to say, hey, we honor you and we respect that we're on the land that you held sacred, and we still go and defile the land. But perhaps we're getting somewhere as communities to it's through the awareness that the journey begins. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, and um, I also, another thing I found interesting in the historical representation of the history of it is that during the second, what was called the second celebration of Thanksgiving, which was around 1623, to mark the end of a drought that had threatened the harvest, the governor of the region, Governor Bradford,
Mm.
called for a religious fast. And the days of fasting and Thanksgiving on an annual occurrence, uh, to highlight that and put the settlers and everyone into a whole different level of consciousness when you fast and you think about Thanksgiving from that perspective. So I thought that was interesting, because now it has become solely a feast. Very infrequently do I hear anyone talk about a fast for Thanksgiving, but at
No,
least
it's
during that second one, that idea of a religious fast or days of fasting and Thanksgiving, kind of putting them together, was present.
yeah. It strikes me funny because no, it's not a holiday of fasting. It is like our get out of gluttony free card. It's the weekend you're allowed to just like gorge as much as you can possibly imagine, and it's okay. But there's a touch here because as a ritual, as an honoring ritual, as an annual celebration of the harvest, I love the concept of it. Um, Now, I think anybody watching this program knows that neither of us are gonna agree that it's a great day to go out and buy a freezer or a refrigerator or a new mattress. But no matter how much somebody wants us to, um, and or electronic, but well, I don't know. If you're gonna shop Friday morning online, right? So anyway, my point in all this is that there is always going to be a faction of where we are right now, of the people on the planet that are going to want to use this for personal gain and personal benefit, no matter what the holiday is. But this one especially, it gets wrapped up real easy in who can outdo who, and who's got the bigger sale, and who's got the bigger turkey, and who's got more people at the table. And I would love to see us come back to more of that ritualized experience of sitting around and truly being in the gratitude, and less about some made up holiday. because
Yeah.
the more we dig, the Cowboys and Indians version is just wrong. The So what are we going to do about it?
Yeah, well, and it's interesting too. From a historical perspective, a lot of the dishes and things. It. I didn't look into that, but it'd be interesting the whole thing with cakes and pies and desserts. Where that stepped in and how much of it was a commercial push, if you will, given this going on with that one idea there. In that, in 1621 there were no ovens, right? To be
Right.
baking pies and stuff and cakes and so they suggest that most of the things were used in Native American cooking methods and Native American spices and dishes because the pilgrims were just getting introduced to the land and the farming and the culture, which was one of the big things that happened, uh, or one of the big exchanges was that. So that part is an interesting take as well.
I would have to believe that yes, pumpkin pie is probably the result of a great marketing campaign.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I'm going to Costco to get mine. I'm just saying.
yeah. What they said in one thing they had pumpkin. It probably just wasn't pumpkin pie. probably was,
Yeah,
probably was roasted pumpkins with some nuts and spices that grew in the area, or some berries that grew in the area. So pretty interesting, I thought.
I think I'll stay with my pie. I'll stay with getting pie. I'll get one for you too. Don't worry.
Yeah, well,
But
see now in the African American tradition, most African Americans, especially those from the South, will say pumpkin pie. I want sweet potato pie, right?
right.
Because in the South, the filling of choice was sweet potato, not pumpkin. There's a
Yes.
difference because there's a sweetness within the sweet potato all by itself that doesn't naturally reside in a pumpkin. And so now we have all these traditions that's based on other people's culture, and so now it gets interesting.
Exactly. It's okay. So you're striking on it, right? What we experience today is not the truth of the experience that our forefathers had, and not just because they didn't have ovens and they had to eat their pumpkin probably more undercooked and nowhere near as sweet and tasty as pie, but they that what we have is in some ways not necessarily an organic progression of
Hmm.
the the intentions behind the experience originally, behind the holiday originally, behind the ritual of the harvest celebration and gratitude. And the gratitude has gotten lost in many ways, and what we get now is is that stone soup of different cultures and a little of this and a little of that, and bringing a little of this to the table and bringing a little of that to the table. uh, because yeah, I don't think a lot of things that are on today's table were there in any form really. um,
Yeah, yeah, and it's interesting. Uh, as I did this little flashback in time, the history of the holiday itself has always been about gratitude. Because I read about George Washington, the first president around 1789, who was the first president to make a proclamation about the first Thanksgiving, or made the first Thanksgiving proclamation. And his thing was to show gratitude for the end of the country's war for independence and the successful ratification of the Constitution, right? To give some kind of boundaries for how we live. Uh, we'll set aside any ideas people may have about the Constitution, but the idea of 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 being grateful for things that were causing harm, or that created a non-harmonious environment. Well, even back in 1789 and as we move more to a formal situation, we're still being counted for.
Mm. I love it. I find it incredibly fascinating that as a people, we've had this. I don't want to call it an argument, and I don't want to call it um, a conflict, but there have been these two pretty much simultaneously operating perspectives of one event, of this idea of what Thanksgiving should be. And I don't even want to get into the whole idea of what happens once the NFL gets involved. That's a whole nother story.
Right. Well, and in that same vein, like, so if you look at the history of it, this is a great thing to investigate for everybody. We should look at these things like this. So it says something like, I think it was like 1817 or 1816, something like that. New York became the first of several states, right, to officially adopt the annual Thanksgiving holiday, right? However, that whole idea in the American South was largely unfamiliar with the whole tradition, right? They had no concept of that. I mean, the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag native tribe was a northeastern thing, and so up that way they may have been celebrating, but in the American South, it remained largely unfamiliar with that tradition, even only what, 50 years, or not even 50, 40 something years before it became a national holiday.
Just another Thursday.
Yes.
What are you guys doing for dinner tomorrow night? Just another Thursday. And and I do think
Oh,
I do see some of that movement in it's for a lot of people it has become just another Thursday again. It's become a
yeah.
day not to gather. It's become a day not to celebrate. It's become a day to find the quietest little restaurant you can and just go out to dinner or just make a quiet meal at home. It's become a day, it's become the ultimate, yeah, I don't have to go to work kind of day for a lot of people as well, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know that.
Well, and kind of humorous, but not really, right? I would imagine, uh, although slavery had ended in 1863, right, when this came about, I'm sure those uh, living on the plantations were ecstatic because it was a day that they didn't have to work, right? And it was
Right.
probably a day that they were able to get some decent food other than their normal food, because it was a celebration and showing great gratitude. So, it's interesting when you start looking at things 360 degrees, right? And not from some 45-degree angle, or 90-degree angle, or even 180-degree angle. Um, you begin to look at these things very differently, and you begin to, if you're curious, right, begin to make some new uh, ideas, some new conclusions about what we do or say about certain things in our lives.
Right. And this holiday I do believe is the perfect opportunity for that type of healing. For the
Yes.
type of healing that says, um, like, let's all, we've all got the story, one story or another, of an in-law or a direct blood relative or a guest or some quote horrendous experience that somebody had and made a mockery or made a mess out of a family dinner or a Thanksgiving celebration of some sort. And those are stereotypes that we all play into. And
Yeah.
um and we awfulize in advance the, oh, I'm gotta go to I gotta go to thanks I gotta go here, or I've gotta go be with these people or those people. And we know the power of our mind. We know
Mm-hmm.
that that's, I, all I've got to do. It's changed my thinking and changed my attitude coming into the event. And I can have a whole different experience of gratitude, of Thanksgiving,
Mm-hmm.
even if everyone else around me is trying to have a markedly different experience as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and in that vein, one of the things I think that it's always been popular, but I think it's becoming more popular. I think it'll be extremely popular this year. Is the whole idea during Thanksgiving is to give to food pantries, to serve those in less needs, to go to shelters or soup kitchens or things like that. Whole families, the kids, and everybody going to begin to cultivate this whole volunteerism, if you will, and this whole communal vibe about each one helps one kind of a thing, so that we help those that have fallen on hard times, because as the saying goes, there but the grace of God go I. There may be a point where I need someone to show me some gratitude and grace. And so hopefully that idea continues to grow and grow and grow to Thanksgiving becomes this whole thing. Since it's going to be a competition, let's see who can outgive the other one, right? We have a competition on giving other people.
Oh, dude, you just gave me this like little cynical thought. Is that why we put Giving Tuesday on the first Tuesday of December? So that everybody can feel good about giving money because they didn't actually do something to help their fellow man after the last week and a half of excess and gluttony. So we just give money away to make it up. All right, give
That's
money
called
on
that's
Giving
called
Tuesday.
penance. That's called a penance, ain't it?
Yeah,
That's
something
called
like
paying
that.
penance, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, but I agree. I love what you're saying, Z. Right? What if we took the Thanksgiving holiday and from Thursday to Sunday, we made it about service. We made it about giving back. And I know there are communities that do this, and the prevalent philosophy in the United States, at least. I'm not going to say it's about all countries in the planet because we have people watching from all over the world. But the prevalence in the United States is, this is a holiday about me and mine. Get me all the food I can get me all the good deals I can get me all the savings I can get me. And sometime Sunday or Monday, I'll sober up and go back to work to start paying for Christmas. I think there's an opportunity to do so much more. And we've just got to get a movement behind it and get enough people moving in that direction.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the real thing for me about the holiday, obviously one of them is the whole thing of family getting together, and I think that's just one of the staples, if you will, of all the holidays that come up during this season, whether it's Thanksgiving or Christmas or Kwanzaa or Hanukkah or Solstice. It's about family, gathering together a family and being grateful for whatever it is that we have.
Well, when the whole country has a long weekend and it's a paid holiday and nobody has to worry about taking extra time off, you have to make it about family. But
Yeah.
let's make it and all right. So I'm sorry, you don't have to. And there's plenty out there, plenty of folks out there that don't make it about family. Um, but the majority of folks do try to make it somewhat about family. And um, and what if and how about we come to recognize that family is so much more than the bloodlines that are in some imaginary sketch called a family tree, and start to
Mm-hmm.
recognize that the family is so much greater than the dozen or the 2 dozen or the whole or a dozen of your family and relatives. We're here as part of one human family, and I believe it's imperative for all of us to find a way. to continuously every day in some way, whether it's prayer, whether it's getting our hands involved, whether it's feeding, whether it's just taking somebody for a drive, where we're involved with helping those around us, so that everybody has the opportunity, so that everybody has um, the the access to the opportunity.
Yeah. And if we look at one thing we definitely do in religious science and in the New Thought community at large, when we look at the collective consciousness of the planet, right, or the collective unconscious, depends on where you are on the spectrum, right? When we look at most ancient cultures around this same time, the harvest, almost all cultures had this idea or this contrasting idea of fasting when things were when they were under hard times, and having feasts to celebrate the good times in recognition of uh, this greater power, intelligence, however people want to describe this thing that that seems to animate and keeps the wheel of life moving forward. So this idea of giving thanks and praise to God and celebration uh, with meal or fasting has always been around. It's just taken different form, whether it's with the Egyptians or the Greeks or the Romans, or even with Jewish and on Shinnok. Is a holiday that they have that's very similar to that around the harvest.
Yes. Well, folks, if you wonder what you stumbled into, this is New Thought Today on the New Thought Media Network. I'm Rev Robert Brzezinski. This is my co-host, Reverend LZ Sekou, and we're talking all kinds of things Thanksgiving. But one of the things we do want to talk about also is giving our sponsors a chance to say hello and giving us a chance to take a quick drink of water. So please don't go anywhere. We're going to share a couple quick spots with you, and then we'll be right back. Do hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Let your friends know what we're doing. We'll be back again real soon, in just a minute, here on New Thought Today on the New Thought Media Network. Stay with us. And we're back with more of New Thought Today here on the New Thought Media Network, our Thanksgiving special, if you will, and hanging out, having a great conversation with my dear friend here, Reverend LZ Sekou. Z, what are you doing for the holiday? Any special plan?
Um, well, my son is going to come home uh, and be for a day, but I'm going to get the opportunity to travel, if you will, to celebrate the life of my uncle who just passed away at 102, um,
Mm.
which will be a celebration of Thanksgiving in a lot of ways, right? We're celebrating someone who lived to be 102, graduated from college, was in math, was served in World War II, had a family. What better Thanksgiving I believe that I can serve in honoring my uncle, my mother's brother, in a life well lived, and being an example to his children and his family, nephews and nieces and so grandkids and so forth, of how to live life gracefully and to be thankful of everything, because at this point he had gone blind, but he was still active, still sharp, uh, still had a quest for knowledge and a love for life.
Oh, good. Well, we're going to wish you safe travels on your trips and on all that this week. And I get to do a little myself. I'm heading off into Moab territory to be with a smaller group of our extended family than normal. Normally we got 10 or 12 or 18 people there. This year we've got 8. So it should be a nice quiet little trip and a little getaway. So folks, if you're watching this, you're going to see, if you're watching this live or on a replay, you're not going to see us live next week. We're going to have a replay next week, but we'll be back on the 29th with a very special guest. Reverend Dr. Temple Hayes will be with us on the 29th here on New Thought Today. So please plan for that. Join us and plan to join us for that. So, all right. However, we're still talking Thanksgiving, and I would be completely remiss if I didn't bring forward what I think is one of the greatest New Thought quotes about Thanksgiving ever. And this is Neil Donald Walsh. He wrote, "Gratitude in advance is the most powerful creative force in the universe. Most people do not know this, yet it is true. Expressing thankfulness in advance is the way of the masters. So do not wait for a thing to happen and then give thanks. Give thanks before it happens and watch energy swirl. To thank God before something occurs is an act of extraordinary faith, and that, of course, is where the power comes from." And I had the great pleasure to see him speak in Salt Lake City. I think it was 2000. It was like November of 2008, shortly after you and I had met for the first time, and he shared that philosophy and he shared that concept with us, and I've taken that on every year since, and I'll share it with you. It's not always easy to get people to look at the world from that perspective. There's still a lot of people that don't want to go out on that limb and don't want to venture out into the experiment, if you will.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting because I was thinking today. I have an event I have to prepare for. It's coming up, and I saw a news article on the news show this morning about um, famine. That but they're not calling it famine. They're calling it hunger or whatever in Somalia, I think it was, and how babies are dying from starvation and malnutrition. Um, and for anyone who saw that, which almost brought me to tears, we should wake up every morning with thanksgiving and gratitude, right?
Yeah,
And then my heart sunk a bit when I think about all of the wealth we have in this country, in this world, that something can't be done because the drought and water shortage and you can't grow food is nothing to do with the will of the people and the work ethic of the people. It is the conditions of the environment that has changed that's causing this, right? um and
very
so
true.
we have so much to be grateful and thankful for. um the question becomes, how do we show that? Excuse me.
Yes, exactly. How do we demonstrate that? How do we continue to show those around us that that's the perspective. That's our come from.
Yeah.
I'm reminded, it's one of my favorite old parable stories, and it's a story of the wood stove and it's a pretty simple idea. The wood stove says, "Give me wood, and I'll give you fire, and I'll give you heat." And the cabin owner says, "No, no, no, give me heat, and then I'll give you wood." Not going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's been my experience. You're not going to get warm telling the stove to give you heat if you don't haven't given it the wood yet. And that's where so many that's where I get, it confounds me that people want to see the example, see the result before they're willing to express their gratitude. Was it you? It's now. So I was talking with somebody recently, and they were sharing with me that they were in a conversation with a minister, and they offered the minister the prayer, some prayer on something, and their response was, "Oh, I've got enough people praying on that." They're like, "Whoa, whoa, wait, really?" Whoa, okay. Well, I'm always up for one more when it comes to something like that. So, am I willing to be in that perspective, in that state of mind that says, I am grateful for whatever this day brings? I'm grateful
Yeah.
for whatever is on the plate is in front of me on Thursday for dinner. I am grateful for whatever it is, whatever opportunities, whatever relationships, the sustenance, the source, the supply. I'm grateful for all of it. And this is what I'm calling into my life. So I'm going to be incredibly grateful as I experience more income in my life. I'm going to be incredibly grateful as I experience that love relationship, or as I experience that new job, or as I experience that new car, or just experience the old car being fixed, or whatever it might be. There's a little inside joke there, folks. We'll tell you about that in a few weeks. But where can we be more grateful in advance and give the stove the wood it needs?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it becomes, I believe anyway, very obvious when we can begin to live life in a multifaceted way and not a one track, one opinion, one view. Um, we could do so much good by really being what we term a term that's used a lot in New Thought, of being holistic in our approach to things, where we don't take the patented answer, where we don't take the um, you know comfortable, easy, um, you know approach to things, and be brave. During these last 2.5 years, we've had these things that a lot of people, these brave conversations. Well, let's not just have them on certain things. Let's have it on all things. Um, and then we can begin to show some real thanksgiving and gratitude when we begin to peel the onion. There's that saying, some of you probably may have heard it before, that says, life is like an onion, and you have to peel it one layer at a time. And sometimes it'll make you cry. And that's what, we've had countless stories about how crying is a healing method, no matter how it comes about. And so,
Oh yeah.
we need to do crying to release some pressure, to release some things, so that we can really get into this Thanksgiving idea in any way, in every way possible.
Right. And it doesn't have to look like a knockdown, brawl out fight over dinner. We can do those things differently now. Uh, it's our family doesn't do that anymore. Let's put it that way. But that's the type of experience and a history that many people have, and we've been talking about it all day, right? Don't bring those biases with you. Don't bring that energy into the room with you. And if something's going on that you're not exactly happy about, it's a good day. It's a good day to look at what, unless it's a direct physical action, what's pushing your buttons? Which buttons of yours are being pushed? Because that's really what's happening. And if I can identify, you're pushing my not enough button, and then I know how to address the situation. Then I know how to come into the conversation. And it doesn't have to be aggressive. It doesn't have to be defensive. It doesn't have to be angry. It doesn't have to be all those things that have a tendency to happen.
Well, with that being said, I would like to hear at some point. Just send us an email, if you will. How many political conversations get had at the Thanksgiving table, given the midterm elections we just had, because there's always said that, yeah, well, there's two things that always happens at Thanksgiving: football and politics, right? So after what we just had, it'd be interesting to see, and that's just a little anecdote, but
Or you
um,
can send us your football picks, either one. As long as you're not picking the Broncos, send us your football picks. We'll consider them.
oh, that was cold, brother. That was cold.
Yeah, I got it. Tis the season. It's getting cold here in
Yes,
Denver.
yes,
It's
yes.
getting real cold here in Denver. But no, I mean, I hear you. It's that is one of those conversations that we know we go in the room. No, we don't have those conversations at Thanksgiving, and and that is a shame in many ways. Um, but because more than anything, I think those are the places in the rooms where conversations really need to happen.
Yes.
Uh, and the tendency is to say, no, we don't do that. We censor our apples to apples game. We take out any of the cards that got anything to do with certain topics from our apples to apples game, put those aside. We leave those back here at home, so that there's no possibility of that argument coming up, because we've been down that road and don't want to have that discussion. And that's one of those places where I think any of us can step a little more fully into who we are and what we're here to be doing, is to be willing to say, okay, I'm not going to shy away from that anymore.
Because
But
what a
we've got
great
to be
time to
able.
have a no,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was just gonna say, what a great time to have a courageous conversation, right?
Right.
People are coming together to see family and merrymaking and everything. Uh, what a great time why people are open and in a celebratory way, and even if you have to put some parameters around it, it's a I have never found a open and honest conversation between anyone that has not endeared the parties involved to each other deeper. If it's honest and open, not we may disagree, we may be ready to go to blows, but if it's open and honest in an atmosphere of understanding, I don't think anyone can walk away, first of all, unchanged and with a different perspective of how they view things themselves.
Yeah. Amen. Absolutely. Okay. Friday, the fourth Friday of the month is National Let's Have a Conversation Day.
Yeah,
Stores are
we should
sold
get
out.
that out there.
Stores are sold out by noon anyway, right? All the deals are gone by noon from Black Friday. So we'll just having, and we got to change the name of that too, by the way. But
Yes,
um,
yes.
let's make Friday National Have a Conversation with Somebody You Don't Agree With Day. Some
Well, and it's interesting. Black Friday, eh, generally speaking, is the only time that I can think of, at least right off the top of my head, without digging deep, that black is used not in a negative term.
Exactly. It's used as a positive. Yep. Very one of the
I
very
can't
very
think of
few.
any other time.
Yeah. Exactly. Generally, when we refer to something as black, whatever, that's not a compliment. Um, but I still want to change it.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
I agree.
Not trying to take anything away from anybody. Yeah. Well, I think
Well,
it's time for I think it's time, and part of what we're talking about is it's time for this whole concept to be reimagined, right? Not to take anybody's holiday away, not to say that we're wrong for celebrating a pagan ritual that was appropriated from the Native Americans. Nothing to, nothing to say that we have to give up everything we've always known, but I do think it's time that we expand into what we are doing to be more of who, here's my chime, who we came here to be as spiritual beings, as
Yeah.
serving the growth and the evolution of humanity, being a beneficial presence on the planet.
Yeah, yeah. And what better way to, there's this verse from the song that says, "Why have we come to earth? To love, serve, and remember."
Right.
And what a great song to play during Thanksgiving, to remind us, uh, you know, what we're doing here, at least in
Yeah.
part. Now, there's other things we know, but we know at a core, no matter what you do, it's because of love. You're trying to serve, and you're remembering a genius, intuition, awareness that garners thanksgiving, that garners praising, a understanding of give and take throughout the whole universe, and that's, those are the kind of ideas I think of are needing more upliftment, if you will, during this holiday season. Not that Black Friday, it ain't what it is, but there are other things than me going to spend some money on some things I don't need, especially
Just
during this time. Uh,
just because they're on sale. Exactly.
yeah, yeah, and they should call it, as opposed to Black Friday. In some cases, they should call it Real Price Friday, because if they can sell it that low on that day, they can sell it that low every day.
Yes, that's true too. Very, very, very much so. So, um, it's there's an opportunity in front of us. There's no question about it. And there always is. There's an opportunity for us to more fully step into who we are in bringing forth the next, the new. And
Yeah,
that's part of what I've always loved about this philosophy. It's not the same thought. It's not last year's thought. It's a new thought. And every time we have a new thought, we have a new opportunity for a new experience. Now, yeah, I have thoughts that don't come to fruition. I have thoughts that I wish I didn't have. And I have thoughts that I don't put any energy behind. However, when I do have a new thought that gets some, it has the potential to change everything.
yes, yes,
And as we get more and more people, I believe, on the ship, as it were, as we get more and more people looking at their lives and these old, how many of us eat turkey just because that's what we want? That's what we're told we want, and that's what's in front of us. Um, there's opportunity to look at it differently, and that moves us forward in our lives into something better, into something newer.
yeah, yeah. And what better thing to give thanks for than the opportunity to explore, than the opportunity to understand something or someone at a deeper level. Uh,
To,
and that's what this opportunity provides us, I think.
yeah, to know this truth, to be in the place of this absolute truth, that and all the parts and all the principles of it. Um, uh, I'm gonna hit on the prayer. It's hit on the prayer piece for a minute, because how many people do sit at a dinner table with and hold hands and go around and say what they're grateful for this past year, and let their food get cold while somebody says something that nobody really is buying into, that feels like an obligation. Even there is an opportunity to say, hey, how do we do this a little bit differently to really represent a sense of gratitude for what has and what will be, and for the family around us, without it just becoming some obligatory hand holding circle,
Yeah, yeah,
to make our prayers alive and real in our lives. And I kind of think about it now. almost every family you come together at Thanksgiving, almost every family's got somebody that's not feeling well, that's in some way or another. What a great time to put a family prayer circle together and do some healing. Get some people walking away from the holiday feeling better than when they came in. Than when.
Yeah. Well, that's so important, I think, because the things that we should be grateful for oftentimes goes amiss in these kind of uh, commercialized modern day rendition of these original ideas, right? Um,
Yeah.
and and so like when you asked me what was I going to be doing, I give I said giving at a homegoing service for my uncle, giving thanks. Some people might say, oh, that's morbid or whatever, but no, that's true Thanksgiving. I get a chance to think about my uncle as I grew up, the things that he did and the relationships that were formed, and all of the things that happened because of him, right?
Right.
What
Yep.
better way to give grace and thanksgiving and gratitude than to honor his life in that way? Um, so
And you,
it's a wonderful thing.
yep.
Um,
And you will
that
share stories.
gratitude.
I was gonna say, and
Go ahead.
you're gonna share stories that other members of your family have never heard about your uncle, and they're gonna share stories you've never heard, and everyone comes away from the experience more full, more fulfilled, more with a greater understanding
Yeah.
of the gifts that he brought to the world, because there's always stories you never heard before. You're like, what? He did what? Wait, when did that happen? And here a whole new aspect of his life is revealed to those that are there celebrating. It's a beautiful thing.
And the remembrance. I as you were saying that, I just remember uh one Christmas time. It wasn't actually Christmas because everyone normally came home, but we went down and uh he lived in Central Florida, and he took us to an orange or citrus grove. I won't say orange grove because they had every kind of citrus you could think of: oranges, lemons, limes, kumquats, tangerines, tangelos, satsumas. I mean, some people don't even know all these different kind of citrus fruits exist, right? Uh, but he took us to this citrus farm that had, I don't know, it must have been 10 or 12 different types of citrus fruits. And because the season was long, we could just pick whatever, and you pay for them, you get them at a good price, and of course all the kids are eating probably more than they pick. And I will never forget that.
Right. Yeah. I wish you well celebrating your uncle
Yeah, yeah.
and your
It'll be a
family.
good time. Yeah,
Yeah,
it'll be a good time.
exactly. And folks, we wish you well also in whatever way you're going to experience this holiday, whether it's a celebration or if it's not, if it's something a little less joyous. Well, hey, don't feel free to reach out to us at our prayer line, prayer@ntmedia.org. Get with one of our practitioners, have a conversation, or just send in a prayer request, and let us get working on that behalf for you as well. This is New Thought Today. We're going to get out of here for now. Before we go, though, however, we want to say a quick thank you to our sponsors and organizational and individual contributors. Don't go away. We'll be right back. On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network. Come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, dear ones, for being with us and for your financial contributions that make this network what it is. All right, Z, before we go, we're taking next week off. We'll be back on the 29th. Until then, how about some final thoughts?
Yeah, I would say as we prepare for Thanksgiving and holiday season, whether it's Thanksgiving or Kwanzaa or Christmas or Hanukkah or solstice, whichever holiday you celebrate, or if you celebrate them all, at the heart of each one is this idea, I believe, of what the one we have coming up is Thanksgiving and gratitude and love for ourselves, for our families, for humanity. And so my last thought would be let's do that every day. Let's not wait every year to the holiday season for that to happen. Let's do it in some small way every day so that when these holiday seasons come around next year, they can be a little less anticlimactic because we've done it the whole year long.
Yeah. Amen, amen, amen. I'm right there with you. That's my thought as well. Make yourself gratitude for what has been, what is being, and what shall must be in your life. And make that part of your daily practice. And the magic happens. The doors open, the opportunities arise, and I love what you said. And this time next year, it's not a surprise. It's what is.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks for being with us, folks. We wish you a great and glorious Thanksgiving holiday. We'll see you again in just a couple of weeks. Until then, I personally want to wish you a peace and richest blessings. Until next time, bye now.
Peace.